Hello everyone, I think we're live. I didn't check the microphone before we started, but it is plugged in, so I'll wait and make sure that the audio is on before we get going. There's always a delay between chat and... Okay, we're good. So tonight we are painting a Chickadee in acrylics. I'm going to be doing a reddish-orange background, so very different than usual. And I'm working on a Fredericks watercolor canvas board. This is an 8x10, and thank you to Fredericks for providing me with this canvas for this video. So I guess that would be kind of technically be considered sponsored. What else? So the reason that I go with a watercolor canvas board versus a regular canvas or a canvas board, I just like how smooth these are. Super, super smooth. Never even used them for watercolor. I love them for acrylic. So if you're trying to get smooth blending, if you're trying to get really fine detail, these are absolutely wonderful to work on. So let's see. Anything else? I think we're good. Oh, I'm certain I'm forgetting something, but we'll go ahead with it. There's a possibility throughout the night. Fireworks have been horrible by my house lately because people apparently think lighting explosives next to houses and really during a drought is a genius idea. And they've been doing it for like a week now. So if it happens tonight, my solution, the boys know to come to me and they get a treat because Wade has a really hard time with them. So I've been working with like trying to desensitize him and get him to associate that noise with, it helps. It certainly helped. Not a total solution, but we may have to take a few breaks if he needs like extra treats during the stream because like he has his own. Let's see if I can move it so he can't hear it. It's not the ones he gets for super chats. It's like this little, they're like little Cheez-Its. Anyway, that's his, if there's thunder or if fireworks, that is what he gets. But anyway, so if I have to keep stopping, I'm hoping it won't be too bad tonight. Last night was bad. Anyway, let's move on. So let's get that out of the way. I'm going to put the color down initially with a Taklon bristled filbert. So this one is a Simply Simmons number 12, so about that size. So larger would go faster, but this is what's convenient. And I wonder if I can get this set up. You might be able to see my water. Let's find out if I can arrange this a little better than what I've got. So you can kind of see my water. If nothing else, you'll just see how, oops, that's backwards, how often I dip the brush in water. I thin my acrylic paints with a lot of water, a lot more water than you might think. So I'm just going to start with some red oxide. I'm going to do a base layer. I'm not going to worry about any shading, anything fancy. I just want to cover up the white of the canvas so that I'm not fighting that. That way when I go on with the other layers where I start getting that nice blending, I want to get some purpley blues in there. When I start doing that, it's going to blend out and look a lot smoother, and I'm less likely to have streaks because I've already gotten rid of the white of the canvas. And I'm going with a color that's the main color for my base. Let's go ahead and I can actually add a little bit of magenta into that now. And I'll just slop that in there. I don't really worry too much about my brush strokes because I'm going to use a mop brush to get rid of those. Well, by mop brush, I actually mean a blush applicator. And if you're thinking, wow, a lot of water, I heard you're not supposed to mix water with acrylics or not very much water. Yeah, that's a myth that's been going on for a long time, but there's actually a woman who has been spreading that. There's a video that's very popular on YouTube. I know I've mentioned it multiple times, but this is where if you're asking yourself, I heard you're not supposed to, it's probably because of that video. It's not true. You can mix water. Goldens themselves have done tests that proved like it was no problem. You mix all, I don't want to say all the water. I mean, you mix up to like 90 to 95% before it's an issue. So using water in your acrylics is a normal thing to do. We've all, like, that's how they're done. You can use mixing mediums. I don't like them because they tend to make the paint dry faster. It's gunky, like the texture is just weird. I'm just not a fan. So we'll just get that in there, and I'll have to adjust the color and lighting, contrast, all that, because this is certainly off tonight on this. And I'm just going to take, this is a blush brush. The supplies that I'm using are all linked in the video description if I did my job right. If not, you can find them at Lachri.com under acrylic supplies. I'm just going to soften that out. You can get the reference photo if you want to paint along with me. That is over at my website, Lachri.com. Link to the exact reference photo in the video description. You know, if you don't want to spend too much time looking around. I've got a couple of hairs that shed I want to get out of there. There's one right up there. Just soften that out. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is just a base layer. And that color is so not even close. So we'll fix that in just a moment here. But before I dry this, I need to clean my mop brush. So whenever you're using these brushes, it's, again, a powder brush. I like these because they don't, the makeup brushes, because they don't shed like an actual mop brush. But the shedding you saw was from my other brush, not from this. But you want to make sure they're clean and dry and ready to go. So when I rinse this, there should only ever be paint on the tips of the bristles. So I only have to dip the bristles, just the tips, in the water. I don't have to soak the whole thing. That way I can get it dry and ready to go before my next layer. So now I'm going to use the hairdryer and dry this. And then we'll see if I can fix the color. Now there are videos talking about the mop brush. We'll talk about that while I try to fix the lighting. Let's see if I can multitask. I never can. But the mop brush, I see videos, I see reels and stuff on YouTube or Instagram where they're taking these brushes and they're dipping it in paint and painting with them. You could make it work, but dear God, you're making your life so much more difficult than it needs to be. There are so many better brushes for applying paint than a mop brush. There's a guy, I was watching him paint clouds with that, and I'm like, I mean, you've got it to work, but I don't know why you're making your life harder than it needs to be. It's kind of like cutting your lawn with a pair of scissors instead of a lawnmower. Like, you could make it work, but I don't know, that's a weird method. So there are a lot of, the point is, there are a lot of videos on YouTube. There's one where she's like holding a fork over the canvas to get you to click on the video. Yeah, you can make a fork make paintings. There's a reason we use paintbrushes. There is a reason, like, talk about uninventing the wheel, going backwards in the supplies we have. And I'm all for using whatever is convenient and whatever works, but a lot of these videos are showing you to use supplies that are, I'm sorry, they're stupid. They're just dumb. Look, I taped a bunch of Q-tips together and I dabbed it. Yeah, and as that gets wet and as it absorbs water and paint naturally, they don't last. That doesn't work. It's super wasteful and it doesn't work. But it gets clicks because it's different. People are like, oh, what's this different thing that artist is doing? In most cases, the majority of these little hacks and all these little, like, look, I used this weird kitchen knife instead of a palette knife like I should have. Like, they're for clicks, not because they're something you should do. It's actually very frustrating to see. And I always click them too because I get it. You see the question, you're like, huh, why would that work? But a lot of those videos that you see out there, the reels, the TikTok, all of this, they're just, yeah, 5-minute crafts, exactly. They're usually horribly inaccurate. And that's the thing anyway with, let me see if I can fix this while I ramble. That's the thing anyway with a lot of those, like the 5-minute craft ones, they'll show you how to propagate a plant, but they do it with an orchid in a way that you cannot propagate an orchid the way they showed you. So they showed you like 10 different ways you could propagate it, and it's all a lie. They're like, oh, here's before and here's after, except that would have killed the plant. It's not physically possible. Like, that is not how those plants are propagated. So yeah, sorry, fungus gnat in here. Super frustrating. Don't you use your real art supplies. We've been using them for hundreds and hundreds of years for a reason. Let's see, what do I need? Easel. Actually, let's just move it this way to make my life a little bit easier. No, that actually, it doesn't make it as easy as I thought it would. Hold on 1 second here. Let's try it with the camera hub. That might give me somewhat more accurate. Oops. No, definitely not. Ooh, too dark. It's kind of closer though. That is a lot closer. It's a little on the too light side though. That may be pretty good. Look at me learning to use my tools more like how I'm supposed to. Okay, save that. Okay, let's try that and see how that goes. And pull this back up. Art of Raven D asked if I've seen any Instagram reels of someone using a magic clean eraser to rub watercolor off as an artist hack. I don't know. I mean, I've not seen it, and I don't know if that would work. I just know that the majority of hacks are really just stupid things. They're things that people are doing that are dumb. Like, here's a hack. On a soda can, if you turn the tab around, it's a holder for your straw. Think that through. A straw can't fall in anyway. Why would I need a holder for the straw? The hole in the soda can is the holder for the straw. I don't know why you're using a straw with your soda can, but whatever. That's a whole other issue. But yeah, stupid stuff like that where you're watching it going, oh, I never knew it was for that. Except it's not. That's stupid. Like, that doesn't even, like, think it through. Anyway, okay, let's move on. So you want to make sure that this is completely dry before you go on to your next layer. Otherwise, the previous layers will lift off. So that was why I dried it, and then we took care of everything else so that it had a chance to set first. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and start pulling more of these magentas and plums, because I don't want that much of the red oxide. Like, I want the red oxide color in there, but let's make it prettier even more. So I've got a lot of this magenta in here. Let's even pull some plum. Oh, that's starting to dry. I may have to reload that. There we go. Let's just get this wet. And I'll move this. This board has worked really bad, so it's making things worse. Let's see if that helps. Oh yeah, that's better. I just needed to bend it the other direction. Sort of. Now I can use my fine mist sprayer. If you are painting in acrylics and you do not have one of these, you need to get one of these. They're fairly inexpensive. They're like under 10, like they're not much. If I've got an Amazon affiliate link, I'm not actually allowed to give you the prices. It's a weird, like, people lose their accounts for that. So whatever, you just have to go look it up. It's not expensive, but I'm just going to mist that to keep it wet. So I want all of this to stay wet the entire time I'm blending this so that I can get that nice wet into wet look. So if it starts to dry, if it starts to kind of tack up, all I need to do is do a light mist with that. Now you want to use a fine mist sprayer, not a regular spray bottle, or you can use your airbrush and mist water. That works too. It actually works technically better. It just takes more work. But you can use or you don't want to use your regular spray bottle like for houseplants or cleaning or whatever. The water droplets would be too big, and that creates a whole lot of drama. Where like the water droplet that comes off that's too big, it makes it, when you go to blend with your mop brush, that drop all the paint that was on that drop pulls off. So that is, I need some more deep plum. Hold on one second. I don't have enough of the dark color here. It's actually not called deep plum. Prism Violet, you will work. Oh, you're not the same color, but whatever. Close enough. I just want a mixture of a few colors in there. This is looking more black on, at least on my screen. It's really more purple in person. Get a bunch of magenta up here. And I'm going to pull a little bit of cobalt blue with a touch of white. I'm going to let it mix with what's already on the brush. And this is going to give me this almost silvery color as it mixes in. Oh, I'm loving that color. That worked out better than I expected. I mean, I knew that it was the colors to use, but I'll have to adjust the color again. It looks like it's a little desaturated for you guys, but that is working really well. Okay, now I am going to go ahead and mist this lightly where it's starting to dry down here. Just a little, don't overdo it or it doesn't blend well. And now I'm going to go back over this and we'll soften that out. It's a little bit too wet here. This area is creating streaks. So if you get it too wet, you will actually add streaks when you go to blend it. So a little bit too much water in my case there. So I'll use a separate brush as this sets. I'll just get a light blending. If you can see, I don't know if you can see, yeah, there you can kind of see better. There's a few streaks in here. It looks smoother on the camera than it does in person. So I will go over that with another mop brush and soften that out. Again, when I say I'm going to blend something out, I'm not really blending, I'm getting rid of my brush strokes. Like, it should already be blended. The color is located where I want it to be. Okay, I'm going to switch to a brush that is clean. Prop this up on the edge of my easel there. And I just barely want the tip of the bristles touching the canvas. If I touch too hard, it starts picking up paint, and I'm back to creating brush strokes instead of getting rid of them. The whole goal here is to get rid of those brush strokes, or at least soften them out. That actually came out really pretty. I'll adjust the colors in just a moment. So the first thing I'm going to do, same thing, I'm going to go ahead and rinse these brushes. Not that I'm going to need them again tonight, but I still want them clean, so I don't have to spend as much time drying them. And I just rub this in a circle on a paper towel to dry that off. And again, with this one, just dipping the tip of the bristles in the water. Okay, and let me, actually, this brush needs to be cleaned too. Because we are done with that one. That is way too big for the Chickadee. Now, another common not true thing that is spread by one specific person or on YouTube is the idea that your acrylic paint water needs to be clean. You should have a separate one for your brushes and a separate one for your, one for cleaning the brushes, one for loading the paint and thinning the paint. That's for watercolor. That video, the specific one, the guy who made it, he just made a bunch of crap up so that he had something different to say than what everyone else says, but it's all crap. Like, that is not true. Your acrylic paint can be, I mean, this isn't even that dirty yet, but it can be mud. I mean, that is like as dark as my canvas, and it does not affect anything negatively. Even when I go to paint the white portions of the Chickadee, that the white will overpower that. That's a watercolor thing, needing the clean water for your brushes and a separate one for mixing the paint. That is not an acrylic painting thing. So tonight's theme is misinformation online about paints. Okay, so we're gonna dry this now. Okay, let me see if I can adjust the color here. There we go. It's not horrible. It looks more brown than mine. Yeah, it did freeze. It disconnected and then reconnected, so it should be good now. Nothing I can do to control that. I'm having, oh, I should have warned you guys about that. I've been having internet issues all weekend. Like, it has been from last weekend. It started, my phone can't even connect to 4G or 5G. Like, nothing is connecting to the internet. So hopefully that will clear up. Okay, what was I doing? Saturation. That is closer. Temperature. That's a bit closer. Okay, let's save that I may have to adjust the temperature again though once I start painting the Chickadee. I want it to be as accurate as possible because this is available, which I did not mention, is available. You can bid on this if you want to own this little Chickadee yourself. You can bid on it over my website link if you're in the US resident, or if you're not a US resident but you have friends in the US who are willing to ship it to you, I can ship it to them and then they can deal with the whole international drama of shipping. But let's go ahead, and you're saved, you're good. Okay, and if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them now. I will be answering them at the end of the video. And I think we're good. Wow, that color is weirdly good. The boys, however, I'm just messing with everything tonight. I apologize. The lighting is changing in here, like, oops, by the minute. So one more thing, let me try to change. This was the boys' camera. Let's lighten them up a little bit. No one can see the cute boys. Whoa, that's a lot lighter. That's probably good. Okay. And we have, oh, Fly Me to the Moon said, Fat Hound. Oh, the boys, well, I guess that's happening. Me laughing doesn't mean you get to just help yourselves. It's very rude. She says, but Mom, I had a really bad weekend. Just let me do what I want for now. Thank you so much. They thank you. Okay. Oops. Close the bag. You want a stinky treat? These are very stinky, huh? Oh, that's very tasty. Okay, that's all. Go lay down. 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 Gibson, today. He's taking his time. He's just going to snip. Oh, here we go. I'm going to make him lay down first, though. It's good training. Gibson, lay down. Why are you going the long way? What are you doing? Lay down. You don't get what's coming if you don't lay down. Thank you so much, Rob. Stay. He said, let's get this party started. Treat time for the puppies. They appreciate it, especially Wade. I felt so bad for him this weekend. Gibson is pretty good. The fireworks and thunder don't really bug him. Poor Wade. Oh my gosh, that poor dog. Thank you so much. Here we go. I think Gibson knows. Look at him watching me. Okay, you get a super chat. You weren't supposed to just come help yourself, though. You're supposed to wait till I tell you. Not okay is not the clear word. Okay, go lay down. That was it. Thank you so much, Rob. Yeah, I know. That was very tasty. Huh. Go on. Oh, you didn't even see. Okay, fine. You can have another one because we missed it. One more. Come here, Gibson. Is it still frozen for you guys? It looks like it's going for me okay right now. Refresh if it's not. Or if somebody can say in chat, let Linda know to refresh. That should fix it for her. Okay, there you go. Okay, all gone. Say thank you, Rob. Rob got you bonuses. Yes, you did. Okay, go lay down. Lay down, 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 down. I know, sad cow. Go lay down. Down. Lay down. Today would be good. Yeah, they really do try to help themselves. Gibson's face. Okay, I'm ready for more. Okay, so I think this is dry enough. We're going to move this board out of the way, which probably is going to totally screw up the color again, now that I just fixed it. But there we go. It looks pretty accurate. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I have pre-drawn out my Chickadee on a piece of transfer paper. Now, I don't recommend drawing your work directly onto the canvas. I don't recommend doing it first. I know some people will take like a charcoal or a graphite pencil, draw it out, and then paint around it. Can you imagine trying to get this wet into wet blending around a Chickadee or around your subject? It's not going to look good. It's not, unless you're going for like looser brush strokes, then that can certainly work. But if you want this sort of smooth blending, you don't want to be painting around the subject. So that's why I've got him drawn out on a separate piece of paper. All I have to do is tape this and hope that the painting is dry enough. It's questionable. And now I can take a piece of transfer paper and a stylus. And let me see if this is the right, this one might be exhausted. No, it's working. And I'm just going to trace over everything. Now, notice that his tail goes off the canvas. So you've got two choices. Either have it within an inch of the edge of the canvas or just make it go right off the canvas. Either way is fine, but you don't want it just barely touching the edge of the canvas. Pick one. So I'm just going to loosely go over this. And you want to make sure that it's taped in the upper two corners. You don't want to just put one tape in the middle, or the whole thing is just sliding all over and your drawing is not going to be lined up the way you wanted it to be. I like this angle of this chickadee because it's so different than how you usually see them. And it just looks so cute, like he's just getting ready for takeoff. Like he's gonna dive bomb his buddy. And I don't need the details perfect. I just want to know about where things are supposed to go. Oh, I should give him an eye, huh? I guess that would be helpful. And then all of these feathers need to be put in. So it takes a little extra time because, yeah, I had to draw out the initial one and then I have to draw it back out. But there's no eraser mark. So your other option is to get your background done in, and then if you wanted to freehand, you can use a white charcoal pencil. I don't think I have, oh yeah, here we go. The General's white charcoal pencil. These guys are wonderful for drawing on top of acrylics. As long as the acrylics you're using, I should throw this out there, if you're using a high gloss acrylic like Golden's or Grumbacher, who else makes some? Liquitex soft body, Liquitex heavy body, both those end up with a real gloss finish. Then that charcoal pencil doesn't stick very well. I also don't like those paints, not the Liquitex soft body or heavy body. I have them all, but I still go with the Liquitex Basics because they dry so much slower. It is so annoying how fast some of these other paints dry. So the Liquitex Basics are just perfect for me for what I'm looking for in acrylic paints. And if you like that high gloss look, which I too also like, put a high gloss varnish over it. When it's done, those colors will come back to completely vibrant, just like they were when they were wet. They'll be beautiful. And there we go. That's probably enough. Oh wait, did I give the branch? Yeah, I've got the branch in there. And I don't choose Liquitex Basics because they're cheap. That's just an added bonus. I choose them because they just work amazing. Really good for my techniques. Okay, so I am just going to start with black and white. I'm not even going to worry about details or anything in here, or tiny, tiny stuff. The colors, words are hard. Let me pull out the brushes that I need. I'm going to start by blocking in his eye. So we've got the pupil. I'm not going to worry about where the shine mark is. I'm going to come back and do that after. So we've got the pupil. And then I'm going to need brown right around that. So to get brown, the way that I'm going to do that, I can use the same colors I'm already using. I'm just going to mix some red oxide and black, and that's going to give me a nice brown. I used to buy the brown paint, but the problem that I was having is it dries super, like it in the container, in the bottle, it starts to get gunky, like chunks, gooey. It just doesn't stay good for as long as the other colors, so I just mix it now with red oxide. Burnt sienna and black will do the same thing for you. We've got a little detail around the eye here. Now, as much as I love the Liquitex Basics, I'm actually considering, I may start taking advantage of my Golden's acrylics a little bit more, because just for the detailed stuff, because it's already thinned out, so I don't have to add as much water, just for like a time-saving method or thing. Now the whole upper section is going to have a shine, so it looks super weird right now. It'll come, that'll work out in a moment. Let's give him the bottom part of his beak is a little bit darker. And I'm going to start with, let's see. Oops, I'm going to throw my brushes on the floor is apparently what I'm going to do. I don't know where that one, oh, there it is. Here's a brush I'm looking for, well, closer anyway. There's a different size. I'm using rake brushes. Here we go. This one will work. So what I have is a rake brush, and this is, imagine this is your tack bristle brush, or your filbert, sorry, where your bristles are just smooth. That is a rake brush. It's the same thing, but the bristles are cut, they're kind of spread out. I've seen people try to make their own, not the same. You're not gonna get the same results. You can get interesting results, just not necessarily the same. So I'm going to start by, if I use more paint, more water, and more pressure, then he's going to come out, it just works like your regular filbert. But if I use a lighter hand, a little bit more water, that gives me a whole lot of little lines in one stroke. So think, instead of a filbert, I'm getting like a bunch of little liner brushes. And I want some of my background color to show through, to peek through here. He's going to have a lot of highlights with blues and such, but I'm just going to paint this in with the black first. And I'll come back through with white highlights, and then I'll glaze the blue over that. And I'll use the same blue. It was a cobalt blue that I used for my base. I'll use, in my background, I'll use the same blue, and it'll help give that same tone. As much as possible, you really want to use the same colors, like use a more limited color palette. Your work, you're going to have more harmony in your colors. Things are going to work together better. If you've got a large set with a ton of colors, just pick a few out of there. Don't try using them all. It usually doesn't come out looking as good. See how you can really see all of these individual little lines here. Oops, let me turn that up a little. Oh, hold on, problems with my lighting. There we go. Get that a little bit better. There, now you can really see it. I'm gonna get a base of just a little bit of the detailing in here. A bit more solid there, a bit more solid back here. Okay, and then we've got a grayish tone. So I'm just going to pull, I'll let a little bit of the red oxide come in. Let's pull this so you can see that. So the same black, added a bit more white, and let the red oxide that was already on the palette, I'm pulling that into it. And we'll use this for the feathers here. Same thing, doing that with I need a little bit more water. So one of the things that'll make a rake brush not really work properly, to where you're not getting a whole lot of little lines, is if the paint is too thick, if you don't thin it down with enough water. You want that thinned out a bit more. I'll let that pull up into the black a bit. And I'll work my way back and forth a couple of times. I'll pull some darks and lights back in there. Now this color also works for the part of the branch. So while I've got it out, I'm going to switch over. Any filbert should work fine. You work. And I'll add shading and such on top of it, but just to get a base on that branch. You do the same thing, we'll use that for his foot. And I want this branch to fade out. I don't want it super bright, so I'm not pushing very hard. Just letting it fade as it moves away from the bird. And then I can use the same color as my base on his beak. I'll still have to come back through and do highlights, but that works. I'm going to use this and create a base here, and then I'll put white over it. But I want this to show through the white, so I've got that grayish tone. And then we've got the tail. I can go ahead and use that same color. Oh, the glare is making it so I really can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Now I can do what is essentially dry brushing. There's not a lot of paint on this brush, but it's because this canvas is so smooth. If you are working with a canvas that is more rough and you dry brush, there's not a lot of paint, not a lot of water in your brush, it'll catch the top parts of the canvas, the tooth of it. It's bumpier, and it catches that, and it looks like crap. I know there are a lot of artists who teach you it's this great, fabulous way to paint. Unless you're working on a super, super smooth canvas, dry brushing looks terrible. There are very few cases where it doesn't. I know, people are gonna argue with me, whatever. I'm telling you, it don't look good. You might think it does because somebody else who's a beginner told you it looks good. It doesn't. With acrylic paints, that's one of the things that makes acrylics look very different than oils, and not in a good way. I've heard people say, well, why don't you just paint with oils if you want it to look like oils? That's stupid. Why don't I just paint with the medium I like and make it look good? So that is why I'm able to dry brush though, and I don't get that rough, bumpy, textured look. It stays very smooth because this canvas is so smooth. And I'm just lightly, this has a little bit of water on it, so it's fairly translucent. I'm just gonna go over these wings here, get that grayish tone. Okay, I think that works. I'm going to go ahead and darken this now and start pulling more of the brownish tone into some of these darker wing or feathers, the darker flight feathers. I can't talk. Okay. Now while this is wet, I can go ahead and add some detailing on the branch while we wait for the bird to dry a little. Actually, I'm going to dry this and then do the branch while the bird cools off. Okay, so now I'm going to take, I could probably use, this one will work. I'm just going to take a small brush and start putting highlights and shadows. And this has that same blue, a little bit of that cobalt blue in there. Just getting some little chunky guys. Creating a bit of texture there. I don't want to get too much crazy detail because I really want the focus to stay around the bird. The original reference photo had like lots of branches in the background. I didn't want all of that because I really just wanted to focus on this little guy. So I don't want to undo that decision by putting too much detail in this branch. I can also, while I'm at it, use that for the highlight on his leg. We'll add detail later. It looks a little weird right now. Okay, I'm going to rinse that. I'm going to come back through with some black. Now, one of the things you can't often see me do when I load that brush, I dab it on a paper towel that's on my easel before, ooh, need to dab that a little more, before I hit the canvas. Otherwise, you will have big globs in locations you probably don't want them. See, as I move out, I'm just going to fade out just less and less. So as I move this way, it's just kind of fading out into that background. Creating a little bit of the shading on the beak there. Just look at your reference photo and copy what you see. But you've got to teach yourself to copy what's there because oftentimes our brain is like, oh, I know what a feather looks like. I don't even need to look at that photo. Look at the photo, and if your brain is trying to take over from what your eyes are seeing, flip your work and your reference photo upside down. You will notice so much more and you'll see things more accurately because it just makes your brain like kind of skip a beat on, wait, what? What am I looking at? And you just copy the shapes you see. That's what you want to do. Copy the shapes and shadows that you're seeing in your reference photo. Not your brain saying, it's a feather. We know what a feather looks like. Don't even need that photo. Okay, now I'm going to come through and start creating, I'll probably use a smaller. I've got a million different rake brushes over here. Where's the little one? I had a really tiny one. Just what everyone wants to do. Watch me look for brushes. You'll work, I think, maybe. We'll use you, and I'm going to use that same bluish. So it's blue, white, there's a little bit of red oxide. It's pretty much all the colors on my palette are in this pile of blue right here. I'm going to use this for some of these highlights. Hopefully that's not too much. It's probably too much. Worst case, I go back over it with black. Yeah, it's a bit on the too much side. And I need more water. That is way too thick is I think the bigger problem there. There we go. And so we've got this cute little highlight on his head. You want to be careful when you do highlights. Avoid straight gray if you can, because it ages the subject. Like if you're drawing, let's say, a black lab, and you put a bunch of gray fur for the highlights, or you're just using gray, you will make him look super old just because it's gray. Instead, use purples and blues. Get those other colors in there. Purples and blues are usually my go-to for highlights on black. If you struggle with fur, if you look up, there's a video that I did, just look up Lachri, and I think it was a black panther in, I think I did it as a black leopard, and colored pencil. And I'll show you how I do the colors with the blues and the purples there. And you can apply that same thing with the colors no matter what medium you're working in. We're starting to build up to where he'll look nice and shiny on his head. It's brighter for what I'm seeing. Let's see if I can get that to where you can kind of see it a little bit better. It's definitely over, the contrast is a little bit too sharp, unfortunately. I apologize for that. I'll hold it up in the other camera so you can see better. And I'll have a photo on my website when this is done. So, well, for those who are watching live, it'll be tomorrow. But I'll have that photo and you can look at that if you want to get a better idea of the colors that I'm doing, since the video is not always super accurate, if you want to download that and copy it. And this photo came from, I believe, Pixabay. It's Pixabay or Unsplash. So it's royalty free. You have complete rights to use it in your own work, even to sell or make prints. Give me these little highlights here. I'm going to use this same color. I'm going to use the same brush. I just push a little harder so it's not working like a rake brush now. Get his beak. Okay, I'm going to switch over to white. I'm going to use that same brush that was working really well. I think actually the Golden's airbrush paint, if I was using that instead for oh, I'm loading it and you can't even see. But for the rake brush, see how much water I have to add? I think if I just used the Golden's, my life would be easier. That thought struck me early, although I think it's probably more expensive to use the Golden's. That is certainly a possibility because you don't get as much of it, whereas I'm just thinning the Liquitex Basics down with water. But the nice thing is there are a lot of different ways we can go to get to that same end. So whether you want to use your airbrush paint or you want to use Liquitex Basics like I've been doing and just thin them out with water. So little teeny brush strokes here. There's a whole bunch of little guys, very, very short. Don't do long brush strokes there, or it makes the feathers look weirdly long. And the feathers are going to clump and cluster together. That's the other thing to really watch. It's not just a solid mass or just individual like confetti lines. We want to make these start to create little clumps. You can see like a little section here, a little section here. I can zoom that out in a little bit more for you guys. There you go. And I can keep building and adding more white as I need to. It doesn't need to be the absolute brightest I can go first time through. But I also want to make sure, I want to put a little bit of extra time into the feathers, anything around the face and eyes and beak, because that's really your focus. As I move away from the face, I'll do less and less detail. A little bit more solid as we get towards the center here. I've got too much water on my brush now. I'm going to reload that. There we go. If you get too much water, it'll be a bit too translucent and too runny. And see how I'm just letting that background color show through? It really helps him to feel like he's a part of that scene. This is especially important if you changed your background. So let's say this started as a blue background, I would want to do, or if it was a blue background and I changed it to red, that's why I would want red pulled in, or these magentas and orange colors pulled into the subject. If he was blue, it would be the same thing. I would let the blue show through, and whatever your background is, let some of that show through on your subject. We've got a little bit of the detailing with the white comes up here, just fades out. And then we've got a little bit of frilling down here. Oh, he's already going to be adorable, I can tell. Actually, I'm not going to be lazy. I'm going to switch to the liner brush for that, the white, brightest highlights on that beak. Whoops, after I drop my brush. We're going to get just a little bit of a highlight here. Then I can take a clean brush if I need to soften that a little bit. And then I'm going to mix the same blue color that I had used before, the blue mixed with white, mixed with a little bit of everything. I'm going to pull some of that for the highlight over his eye now. So this is kind of a grayish blue. And see how it rounds? And I'm just going to pull that down a bit. Add a little bit more. And that makes such a difference in that eye when you get that gloss on there. And then I'm going to put a tiny bright, like a little bit of a white highlight right here. So thick white paint, not mixed with anything, just a bit. And then he's got a gray area that goes around his eye. It's a dark gray. I'm going to start with just a gray ring. And then I'm going to take a little bit of white and add it to that gray so it's a couple shades lighter. And I'm going to dot right around. Oops, too white. Dab that. Got a little crazy. I'm just going to dot right over that ring around the eye. So we've got that little bit of detail. I know it's hard to see when it's this tiny, but it's there. Whoever ends up buying this, if this one sells tonight, you'll appreciate the little bit of work I'm doing that you can't really see. I'm going to use, while I've got my liner brush out, I'm just going to take some of that black. Let's get a little bit more detailing in here. Some little feathers. Watch the direction. Look how they switch directions, where they're going that way and they start curving back this way. It's got some little feathers that stick out here, little wispy guys. Oh, he is cute. Oh, I never put the hold on one second. I did not have my volume on, so I was not getting messages from Nick or Joseph. The stream was down. Oh, already auctions. Oh, see, that always makes me a little bit more, like there's more pressure to make them really good if somebody's already bidding. But it's going to be good. I can already tell, because look how cute his head already is. Let me show you in this one, because the color is usually a little bit better. His head is so cute already. Like, I'm loving him. I love the angle. Like, he just, I don't know, he just looks ornery to me. Like he's about to jump on his buddies. Okay, so let's move now onto these guys, these feathers. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to be using the rake brush, but I'm going to use white this time and let the gray show through. Just watch the direction. So here we start switching directions. This one, the lines really still are kind of clumped. There's a lot of overlapping. Tiny little guys. Load that again. So right now, because I want this, so it's kind of hard to see, but because I want these lines so thin, having my paint thin down even more is why I'm able to get such thin lines. So it looks like I'm doing just hundreds of little lines with a liner brush, except I'm doing it a lot faster because I'm getting multiples in one brush stroke. There we go. Now let's get those flight feathers in. I think I'm going to start with the white, and I can actually use this same brush as almost a liner, just holding it to the side. I'll switch to a liner. Being lazy is not making my life easier. May as well switch. A liner or a smaller round brush would work well. There we go. And then we start having a lot of these little white lines through here. This is super bright. I'll probably come back through and tone some of this down a little bit because the whites in this whole photo are very overexposed. Probably tone a little bit down with the blue, but I also really like the contrast, so I'm not going to overdo that. More water on that brush. And a lot of these will get really close together to where they're basically touching. And I want to try to do these on the longer flight feathers in one brush stroke as much as possible. If I do a whole bunch of little strokes like that, they're going to look too fluffy. Fluffy's great around the bottom half of him, but on these feathers, I want to try to do most of this in one long brush stroke. That's going to give me a much thinner, more controlled line. And we've got some littler feathers in here. Let's see, we've got this defined one. And then a bunch of little guys here. They're kind of subtle. You don't really see them that well defined. Okay, and then we've got to come back through these feathers that are off to the side here, where they're just overlapping a bit. And I'm just constantly looking at that reference photo. I don't need every feather to be exact. I just need them to be close and about the right location. That is enough for this. We've got a smaller feather here. Okay, and I'll shade those individually, but we're going to go ahead and go back to the rake brush. We'll start getting some of his body in here, so I'm going to load that brush again. Oh, it's not really the right brush. No, I don't want you. I want the smaller one. Was working really well for me. Which one is this? This is a King Art. It's called a King Art 1/4 filbert grass comb. And we're going to give him his little fluffy body. So now we get that fluff. And while I've got the white paint, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, or what I was just talking about, where I'm going to come back over this now that this is starting to dry. Just pull those whites out a bit more. Some little dots around the eye there. I don't know why, whenever I get to where I'm doing a tiny area, I start talking super quiet, which is annoying when I go back to edit these. Like, stop whispering. I have to turn the volume up because if it's like a super precise, I don't know if you guys do this if you're ever talking while you paint, get really quiet when it's serious. I need to break that habit. Now I'm going to use a little bit of the white for the brightest portions of the highlight on his head. Pull some of those out a bit more. And I'm not creating new ones. I'm going with the shapes that are already there. I'm just defining them a little bit better. I'm hitting the tips of a lot of the already existing highlights. Pull a little bit more of the highlights on that branch while I've got this out. Again, letting that fade out as I move back. Pull a few little guys in here. Same thing, I'm going to pull a little bit more with the highlights over this grayed area. And now I need to do some shading on that tail. So which brush do I want to apply the paint with? Do I have a small round? Yes, there it is. So I'm going to actually do some shading with black first because I need to pull some darker areas anyway in between some of these feathers. I'm just going in between what's already there. Just darkening a few of these up. And we've got a dark line here. I'm not going to go too crazy detailed on the tail because that's another area I really want that to fade out. Take a clean, slightly damp brush, smudge that out. And on the reference photo, this portion's a bit out of focus too. But I don't want your, like he needs a tail obviously, but I don't want that being the thing that makes your eyes just shoot off the canvas. I'm going to let that just be soft and in the distance more. It actually looks harsher in the video than it does in person. Okay, a few more highlights. We are almost done with this guy. I'm going to do some of the highlights. I'm going to pull that bluish color again. Same thing, going to take the clean brush that's a little damp and smudge, oops, I'm going to put too much water on it. Pull that down. If there's too much water on the brush that's clean and damp that you're smudging with, it will work like an eraser. It'll lift whatever you just added paint to. So not really the look we're going for. We'll get a little bit of highlighting here. I'm going to smudge that out pretty good. And I want to take a little bit more black around his eye. I'm just going to do a couple more details because right now it's just a little too scruffy. Well, you can't tell in the video, but there's a lot of the reddish background showing here. I don't want quite that much. So it's going to look like I'm not doing a whole lot because that's not picking up on camera. But I don't want it to be that scruffy looking. I want some red showing, just not that much. Like I said, or maybe I didn't say that. I reserve the right to come back tomorrow with fresh eyes and do a few little touch-ups if I feel it's needed. When I sit in front of this for an hour, I may lose sight of a few things that could use some touch-ups. There we go. I really like this guy. Okay, now I need to sign it. So what I will typically do, oh, I want to pull a little bit more blue too. I have two more things I want to do, but I may as well sign. I always sign it before I'm done anyway, so that's normal. Where did my line? Oh, here it is. So I've got to decide, where do I want the signature, here or here? I think I like it in this corner here. And I'm going to just use that same blue color. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit of gray in it so it's not too in your face. And make sure when you sign it, keep in mind when this gets framed, the frame will go over just a bit at the bottom. So go up a little bit so that your signature doesn't get totally cut off. we go. So there is the signature. I'm just going to stick my thumb in it just to tone it down a little bit. And I wanted to do like that. And OBS, yeah, OBS keeps disconnecting and connecting. Just refresh if that happens. Oh, this guy is adorable. Oh, his foot. I forgot to finish his foot. Almost done. He just needs a little bit of shading. I don't want a ton of detail there. Same reason. I'm not trying to draw your attention there, but right now it's just kind of a glob. So we've got a shadow here. We've got some little lines on his toes. He's got 3 toes up front that you can see. And then the definite lines over his foot. And we want these slightly curved so that it looks rounded and not flat. A bit more of a shadow. And you can see that most of this is just going to kind of fade into that area. You just want a hint. We don't need a ton of detail in here. Okay, now he's done, or done enough unless I see something tomorrow that I want to update. Let me show you what he looks like better over here. Again, you can bid on him. The link is in the video description. Here we go. I love this guy so much. Look how cute he is. But you can see the highlights a bit. Well, it's kind of dark, but let's see if you can. If I get closer, it gets more blurry. But there you go. That is the finish. I love one of the things that if you're doing this, I recommend, see how this fades out here and how the tail just kind of fades there. If those are too harsh and you go all the way off, it'll draw your attention off the paper or the canvas. I want your attention really focused around here on the bird. So that's why I wanted to tone that down, let just a lot of the background color show through, and then have this branch fade out the way that it does there. So in the color, this monitor is weird. The color is a little bit more of a burgundy. This one looks a little bit more orangey brown, and it does have the orange brown tones, but it's got a lot of violet glazed over it. So it's like, the way the light, it's beautiful. This one's definitely a very pretty one in person, but I do want to point out that that looks a little bit too rust colored. And that rust color is in there, but there's also a lot in here that you're not seeing with the violets that are just not really showing up well. So there you go. That is the finished painting. And yeah, it's internet issues today. Unfortunately, there is nothing I can do to fix it. So I'm going to keep going. And then hopefully the parts that I'm editing down, when I edit this, it should be recording straight. So when I re-upload it, I'm hoping that that will be okay. But when it starts to break up, refresh is probably the best thing you can do if it's not catching up with itself. Let me put the lid on my paint over here. So we have, let me make sure I'm caught up on everything I need to be caught up on. Got a little bit of a bidding war going on the Chickadee. It's worth it. Whoever wins this, trust me, you're going to love it. I'm in love with him. I can't wait to see him when he gets his varnish on tomorrow. Okay, so first thing I wanted to talk about, when can you call yourself an artist? When is it officially okay? You've been painting, you're practicing. When are you technically an artist? Now, you're an artist now. Did you paint or draw something? Then you are an artist. I think people often get confused or mix up what a professional artist is versus just you're an artist. If you painted or drew something, who painted or drew that? The artist, which is you. You are the artist. I mean, it's kind of like if someone bakes a cake, who baked the cake? Who's the baker? You don't say somebody else did because they're not a professional at it. They are the baker of that. You don't have to be a professional in order, and it doesn't even have to do with your skill level or being a professional. If you painted or drew something, you are an artist. You can start calling yourself that today. All of you can call yourself that today. And okay, so let's see. Now, if you hit a point where you are just not excited to go to the easel, you're not excited to paint or draw, you need a bit of a renewal in your love for art, one of the things that you can do is completely change up wherever it is that you're painting or drawing. So if you've been painting and drawing inside for the most part, get outside. Go out, not in Texas, it's 100 degrees, you'll probably die. But if you're in a normal place, go outside if you've got a park local to you. I had a place that I went to once back at my old apartment. There was a trail and it had a stream, the Denton Creek right behind my house or my apartment. And it was so nice to go out there and paint. I did it with the Inktense travel set once. It was so much fun. It made me excited to do it again. Like it was just such an amazing feeling to go somewhere completely new where I'd never gone before and paint or draw or whatever it is. Just take a sketchbook. You don't have to take a lot with you. Take a pencil, take a sketchbook, go outside and draw some trees. If you want to get like the travel set, or you can even make the travel set. Lindsay, the Frugal Crafter, she's got videos showing you how to make cute little travel sets with watercolor, with Inktense, whatever. You can make those if you don't want to buy the actual set, but something light. Don't take a ton of stuff with you. And this is one of the things that I had certainly done that looking back when I was younger, I would go down to the beach. I'm from Southern California originally, so we'd go down to the beach to paint. I would bring everything I owned. Why? Like, I don't need every tube of paint. I don't need, really, honestly, a stick of charcoal, piece of paper, I would have been fine. I would have had fun. I don't know why I would try to pack everything up, because what if I forget something? I was making things way too complicated. It doesn't need to be that complicated. Sketchbook, piece of charcoal, pencil, like so simple. Keep it as simple as possible, but it can really renew your passion for painting and drawing to get into another environment. If you are like me in Texas where it's 100 degrees, that may not be the funnest place to go draw. Change the environment that you're in. So like back with me, I used to paint, my bedroom was my studio forever. I could not reorganize. What's the word? Move the furniture around. My brain just shut down. I guess reorganize, but there's a word for moving furniture. Whatever. Move the furniture around into a completely different configuration. That can make a big difference. When one of the bedrooms that I was painting in, where my easel was located, I just never felt like motivated. I wasn't excited to paint. I probably kept it that way for a year. I eventually moved it to my easel. All I did, across the room, opposite corner. The feel, I don't know if it's like a feng shui type thing. I don't know what the feeling, why that was so different for me, but I was so much more motivated to sit in my little corner. I like to feel a little bit more boxed in than have things open, but I was more motivated to sit in there and paint or draw. Like, I got so much more work done when I adjusted where it was I had been working. There is a fungus gnat in here. That's just, I don't know, the plants, the humidity, I don't know, we've got fungus gnats, so apologize for why I keep doing this. But anyway, I guess it's better than flies. Anyway. But changing things up. You can also redecorate. If you're like me and you had been painting, if your studio is your bedroom, maybe a new duvet cover or a comforter, or like throw a quilt over your bed. Change the colors. Change the paintings you have on your walls. You're an artist. You can make yourself some new paintings. Change the look in there. Light a candle, like set the mood. Make it all nice. Who is Gibson? Stop it. Chewing on his toes. He bites his toenails. He's weird. Anyway, just that shift. The next thing that you can do to get yourself more in the mood and more motivated to paint or draw is the music. Change the music. So like with me, I normally listen to audiobooks, but if I put on music instead, that sometimes will just change that feeling and I'm excited to get in there and work. Or if you always listen to a certain type of music, change the style of music. Now, I'm not saying to something you don't like, but to something that you don't normally listen to or you've not listened to in a long time. Techno. I've always loved techno. I can put on techno and it will make everything feel epic. Cleaning the house, epic. Trimming your toenails, definitely epic. Painting, the most of all epics. Like, techno just makes everything feel cooler, like you're doing something, well, epic. How many times can I say that? It is the word of the day. But that is, I say that a lot too. Anyway, no one cares, move on, Lisa. That difference, that change in music. If you liked classical but you haven't listened to it in a while, try putting on some Vivaldi. Try putting on something that you just haven't heard in a while. I don't know what it is about that kind of giving you this breath of, like, it's just a feeling of renewal for the passion to get back to the easel, to paint and draw. Change the look, change the environment, change the location, change something, and see if that helps you get that passion for your art back. Okay, so we are going to go into your questions. Let's see. Where is Discord? Oh, Nick's probably frantically writing them down now. I'll go up and see what some of the Joseph said, headache, epic. I didn't say you have to listen to techno. It just works for me. Let's see. Yeah, that actually works. Brittany Daniels said, my mom adds ground cinnamon. She gets from one of the local Dollar Tree stores to add to the top of the potted plants that help with fungus gnats. I don't know if fungus gnats, I don't know. I think they're coming in from outside, honestly, because my plants, they run pretty dry. I don't have a lot that's very wet. So besides my dart frog tanks, but they eat fungus gnats, like they hunt them all day. So there wouldn't be a problem there. I think they're getting in from, I don't know. I'm not sure, but I actually have mosquito bits is another thing. You can make a tea out of mosquito bits and pour it over the plants. But like I said, I typically run my plants, like I let them dry out too much. So I don't know, unless there's like one specific plant that's been a bit wet. That is actually possible. I should go on a hunt tomorrow and find out. But yeah, the cinnamon, I've heard good things about that too. I'm just waiting for, oh, here we go. God, Nick puts so much work. Like he writes down all of your, look at that. Nick copies all of your questions for me, so it's all easy. And thank you, Nick. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. Let's see. Can you put a mat on it so we can see it framed, please? This one does not come framed. Did it say it did? Because there's no mat. Like you wouldn't mat an acrylic painting. What you would do is put it in an open frame. I don't think I have one sitting in here. Did I have one? Or did I move them? I think I moved them. Let me see if I've got one over here. I can show you what it would look like if you frame it. But you'll want to put this into an open frame. No, I don't have one. No, nothing I can reach. I don't have anything framed in here. Yeah, that's no help. But this goes into an open frame. You don't mat these. So the ones that you mat, if it has that on the auction bid, don't, where it's like upgrade for $15 for the mat, don't pay for it. Don't do that. Well, I would refund it, but it's not, you don't want to mat a painting like that. So this just goes in an open frame that goes all the way around the edge. You just buy whatever 8x10 frame that you want, and you don't even have to buy an open frame. You can buy a cheap, like Walmart, cheapest you can find. You just happen to like how it looks. 8x10, it's a standard size. You remove the glass. You don't want to put this behind glass. Remove the glass, pop this in its place, done. Ready to, like, that is it. It is framed. So super easy to frame these. They're actually easier than a regular stretch canvas because they're flat. Any 8x10, you don't need to go fancy and buy a really nice, like made for paintings open frame. You can go to Walmart and buy an 8x10. Just remove the glass and switch it with this, done. So there we go. And I apologize if that's on the auction. It shouldn't be. If it is, I messed up. Let's see. Alice said, would you draw a male and female cockatiel for a Patreon lesson, maybe oils over acrylics? It's not a bad idea. I've got some cute photos. I don't know how, so male and female, depending on the position and the coloring of the bird, you can't always tell which is a male and a female. I could do a pair of cockatiels and you can make an assumption over what it is. Like you can kind of tell on the flight feathers, depending on the color of the female, if she has bars on the flight feathers and the tail, but not all colors would have bars. That would be a female, unless it's like the Lutino or a more white bird is not going to have. So I can't guarantee you that the reference photos, I know, yeah, we can pretend they were male and female though. But I do like it. Actually, let me write that down. You want an oil over acrylic of cockatiels. I've not done that, and I think it's a great idea. Are you thinking your traditional like gray with the orange cheeks, or like a white face, or a Lutino, or like what are you thinking color-wise for the cockatiels? Do I not have anything to write with? I'm an artist with nothing. Okay, pencils. You will work. You want cockatiel pairs. Oil over acrylic. That is not spelled right. What pencil is this? Mars Lumograph 6.3, 6B. That is a nice, that's like super like soft. Anyway, sorry. Let's see. But I do like the suggestion. Thank you. I have written it down. I don't know when I will get to it, but it is on my to-do list now. Rolanda said, would a piece still be considered archival if I use Bombay White India ink in my colored pencil pieces? It says it's light fast and waterproof. No. Ink is, I mean, it's water-based, so no, you don't want to go with that. If you're looking for highlights, you want to go with something that's specifically made. So no acrylics, no inks, none of that. You want to go with something that is made for that. And the only thing that I know of that I actually would put my name behind and like recommend is the brush and pencil titanium white and texture white, titanium white mixture and and touch-up texture mixture, titanium white mixture. I can't talk, I can't think of names. Those are the ones that I usually use. I've got videos on that. It is the only one I recommend. And I know that there's another lady who started making some other stuff. I seriously doubt she did the necessary testing considering what she's selling them for. And she's like, no, it's archival. I know people have linked me. I don't even know if she's still doing it, but she was selling them on Etsy. The amount of work I know that brush and pencil went into to make sure everything was archival and would stick to the colored pencil, I don't think this woman who's selling on Etsy did any of that. So I don't trust anybody else. The only thing that I really trust is touch-up texture, titanium white, and touch-up texture and titanium white mixture mixed together from brush and pencil. That's the only one that I personally trust with my own work. So if that's helpful. India ink, no. If it sticks, some people have gotten it to stick and it looks pretty good. Once it's framed, maybe it won't come off for a long time. Maybe it will. I don't know. It's not intended for that, so I'm not comfortable with it. Lavina said, do you use the same mop brush for acrylics, watercolor, and soluble graphite? Watercolor, do I even use a mop brush for watercolor? I don't know if I did. Maybe I did. I don't remember. It's been a while. Yes, you can use the same one for all of those. The acrylics over time are going to stiffen up the brushes unless you're doing a good job cleaning them. So just do a good job cleaning them and they would be fine to use for the others. Oh, okay, I'm going to say it quiet. Rolanda said, your puppies are looking comfy, treat time. I said it quiet so nobody, look, they are out. You boys want a super chat? And that's a yes. One of my lights just went out. Why did my light just go out? There it goes. Did you get a super chat? Say thank you, Rolanda. Oh, she has treats for you. Wade sighs. He's like, my life is so hard. There you go. Good boys. Say thank you. So we needed that. It's a good time. Okay, that's it. Done chewing? Go lay down. Don't choke on it. Go lay down. Down, down, down. You too. Oh, Gibson's stretching. Gibson, go lay down. Go on, all the way. Oh, keep going. Oh, big stretch. Yeah, I got to stretch first. Lay down, Gibson. Gibson, down. Look at him ignore me. Such a sight hound. They're so stubborn. They're like, no, I'm just going to do what I want to do. Okay. Thank you again so much, Rolanda. Oh, wait, it says celebrate the first super chat. How do you celebrate? Is there a thing? Oh, there's nothing to push on it. That's a weird notification I've never seen. Is there a way to, what does it say? User, oh God, no, I don't want to put you in timeout. That is the exact opposite of what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure if it like made balloons or something if I clicked it, but no, that does not. Okay. Where were we? Now with the mop brush, talking about with watercolors, yeah, I've used the mop brush for all of them. Just make sure you clean it really well in between. That's really the only brush that I normally share between mediums though. Like watercolor is very picky about your brushes and they usually, you're going to use a softer brush for watercolor than you would with acrylics. But the mop brush is kind of the exception that I can think of that I go back and forth on. Vanessa said, I want to try oil painting. If it gets messed up, can I paint over it when it's dry like you can with acrylics? Or is the canvas renewed? I think it means ruined. Yeah, absolutely. Whenever something's going wrong, you've got two options. Oils are actually easier to fix. You can, depending on what's underneath it, what went wrong, you can wipe it off while it's still wet. Or let it dry, go over it. For me, I use a fast dry medium. I use liquid, I can't talk tonight. Liquid, I use liquid, and that dries overnight because I paint in such thin layers. So the next day, I'm able to go on top of anything that I wasn't super happy with. And as a general rule with oils, one of the problems or one of the complaints many people have with oils is that they have a tendency to make mud. And that's because people will keep blending and keep layering and layering when it's still super wet, and they just need to stop and let it dry and then go on to the next layer. Let's see. Have you ever tried the acrylic paint that is slower drying, like some of the Open Golden's acrylics, for example? I have some here and I need to try it. No, I have not, because my brain is telling me I'm not going to like it, but I've never tried it, so how do I know? Kind of like my husband with asparagus. He actually liked it when I finally got him to try it after 23 years. But yeah, I need to try it. But like I don't want acrylics to dry slower. I can't think of a situation where I would want that, because the way that I work, I've been doing this for probably close to 30 years now. They work this way just fine for me, but I should do a video trying them. That would be a good video. Yeah, I need to try them. I don't think I'm going to like them though. Elaine said, I was wondering if I could use brush and pencil white over colored pencil and then go over it again with colored pencil. I'm working on a piece that needs more highlight, but not white. Yes, I do that all the time. Touch up texture, titanium white mixture, paint it wherever you want it to be so it's solid white, let it dry, and you can put your color right over it. Now, you do need it completely dry, and it does seem, some people have had problems where it kind of chips or flakes off. I've only had that happen if my pencil was too sharp and my paint wasn't dry enough. I mean, I've had times where it was like an hour later, it wasn't really cured all the way. I had it on so thick, but yeah, absolutely. And I typically will go over it just with a light hand. I don't push super hard normally. You'll have to play around with how much pressure you can safely add, but absolutely paint it white and then put whatever color you want on top. Let's see. Marie said, can a fan brush be used instead of a rake brush? It's not going to give you the same results. I don't like fan brushes. I know a lot of artists use them. I see them use them, and it's one of those, I'm like, I feel like for most things, you're making things more complicated than it needs to be. I don't like I don't even think I own, I might own one somewhere. I don't use them ever. I bought them, a lot of them when I was younger, because it's like, oh, this is what you're supposed to have. The only thing that I like fan brushes for are Bob Ross style pine trees, where you kind of go back and forth and create the pine tree with that. That kind of works, but no, it is not even close to the same as a rake brush, because your bristles, they're fanned, they're like this, but it's still just your normal brush. It's not a rake brush. Now, depending on how much water you added, you can kind of get the look of a rake brush because they'll naturally separate, which is annoying, and it's in a very annoying shape to have it do that. But to do what I was doing, you would want, like, do I have them? Here we go. An actual rake brush there in front of my forehead so you can see. It just looks like a filbert. There's you can kind of see the light coming through just the tips, but it's not the same as a rake or as a fan brush. I have not bought a fan brush in probably 20 years. Because that's how long ago I figured out, hey, these are stupid for most cases. Like, they are making my life way more difficult than it needs to be. Let's see. DC Miller said, hi, Lisa. Please, when you use the fixative in the fine mist bottle, do you empty and clean the bottle after each artwork? My reason for asking is they say only to use water due to clogging. Oh, so I'm only using water in this, so there's no reason to change it. But like when I use the Spectrafix, when I'm doing it over colored pencil and pan pastels, then no, I don't clean it out. I've never had it clog. If it does clog, run hot water through it, it'll be fine. And even if it's not, they're so inexpensive that if I had to replace it, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, I've never had to replace mine. I've been doing this for like, what, 3 years now, and never had a problem with clogging. Sometimes I'll take my fingernail and scrape the tip off, like just the little nozzle area, but no, I've never needed to. Sue Jonathan said, I apologize if I just butchered your name, said, what is your opinion about sellability of gouache painting? Are there gouache artists out there? There are gouache artists out there. Are they losing out art as business? Gouache is just opaque watercolor. So if you're getting light, fast materials, there's no reason you can't sell it. But if you mean like, do people find it to be valuable? It depends on the artist and what name the artist has made for themselves. So you can have an artist who makes a huge name for themselves just using charcoal, and that will sell over another artist who is good but never built a name for themselves doing oil paintings. That charcoal guy has built a name enough that he can demand a higher price because there's more demand because of his name that he has built for himself. He's marketed himself. He's gotten that out there. As long as the medium is I can't talk tonight. As long as the medium that you're using is archival, there's no reason why you can't build a name for yourself with that medium. So if you like gouache and you're using archival materials, light, fast colors, yeah, you can sell it. But your work's got to be good, and you've got to be marketing yourself. You've got to do that footwork. Just creating good work is not enough to get a sale. And it doesn't matter what medium you're working in, and it doesn't matter how good you are. You have to get your name out there. You've got to be, social media is the big thing, putting things on social media. And that is a challenge now because it is very hard to reach anybody on social media if you can't afford ads, and what artists can afford ads, seriously. But, excuse me. Creating a name for yourself. That may mean going to art shows, or going, like in my case, let's say Aquashella. I do marine art, maybe going to fish or aquarium shows, things where my target audience is, and building a name for myself that way. So social media is not the only way to build your name. It's the most common and the easiest at this point, but there are a lot of ways to do that. But you don't just start from like My work is awesome. I demand a high price for it. Usually it's going to take a little bit of time to be able to demand, no matter what medium you're working in, as much as the artist who has built the name for themselves, if that makes sense. Let's see. Angela said, does temperature affect paint? Here in Ontario, Canada, we have really hot and really cold. Will that affect the paints when you're painting? Yeah, it can certainly affect how fast they dry. And if you're running a heater, they're going to dry faster. Or like today, it is super humid here, so everything's drying a little bit slower, which makes me happy when I'm working with acrylics. So yeah, the humidity and the temperature certainly can make a difference, and you just have to adjust for that as you're working. It's not like a huge difference, but it is a little bit of a noticeable difference. So if it's a super hot day, that's going to dry faster. If it's a super humid day, that's going to dry slower. If it's a cold day, but your heater is running, that's drying out the air, that's going to cause the paint to dry faster. Let's see. Art of Raven D said, I am trying to get myself to go back out to drawing out of the home, but times I've tried, I've gotten creepy men hitting on me. I could see that, yeah. What do you do in situations where someone interrupts you? I have the best resting bitch face anyone in the world. Like, people, usually just the look on my face is enough to be like, I'm not entertained by your existence right now. It is rare that somebody has bothered me when you look up and glare at them. It makes them uncomfortable, but I know that I have done that a lot and it works really well. But sometimes people are just going to be way too persistent. Sure, that is certainly a case. But let's say you're sitting on a park bench. Set all your stuff next to you so it's not convenient for somebody to sit down next to you. If they stand there and here's another thing you can do. Earbuds. Put in earbuds. Someone starts talking to you, back to drawing, completely ignore them. I mean, be aware of your surroundings, obviously. You don't even have to turn them on if you want to be so aware of your surroundings that you're safe, but just put them in so that you can do the whole, make the can't hear you sounds, and that would be another way to avoid it. Fill the bench with your stuff, your crap, a backpack, and just spread stuff out. Sit there with your legs up if you want. I mean, take up the whole thing, and so that they can't comfortably sit down, and just ignore them, or giving dirty looks is usually enough to make most people. Now, I'm not saying there's not going to be creeps out there who are just persistent, but those have always worked well for me. Usually I go where there isn't anybody else. Like, I just avoid anywhere where there's people, but that's a me thing, because, ew, people. Let's see. J&J Travel said, new Patreon subscriber here tonight. Oh, thank you. Oh, don't get up. If I use a high-pitched voice, the boys think that I'm not. Don't do it. Don't. Oh, no, Wade, no one wants to watch you chew on yourself. Wade, hey. He's like, but my butt itches. Anyway, new painter. I've been learning from you for months. I'm excited to start going through the Patreon page and the teal tier goodness. Jason. Thank you, Jason. Thank you so Stop looking at me, Gibson. Thank you so much. I have to not be as excited as I actually am, or my dogs will maul me. Let's see. What is the best way for me to purchase Frederick's canvases? I'm over these cheap boards. Blick or Jerry's Artorama both carry them. You can get them on Amazon as well. Check prices, because sometimes Amazon has a great price. Like, you can get a set of them and the price is amazing. Sometimes it's better at Blick. Sometimes it's better at Jerry's. I just check around. There's also, I think Cheap Joe's may carry them. Cheap Joe's doesn't have a lot of stuff that I like, though, so it's hard for me to get enough to get free shipping. Yeah, those are my two go-to, Blick and Jerry's. B said, I've been drawing for many years, and I'm always asked when I'm going to sell my art. Well, I'm too scared of social media. I am an introvert with FAS, social issues. I don't care what people, and that got cut off. So let's see, you don't want to do social media. One of the things that you can do if you are having problems with anxiety and the social anxiety, create a persona. Your business of where you're selling your art, it doesn't have to be you. It can be a persona of you. You could use, let's say you want to post stuff on social media, you don't want to show your face. There are artists who never show their face and do okay getting commissions. I do think it's better when you can be in the videos. Well, it's not even I think it's better. Research has shown it's always better if the artist can be seen, but if you don't want to, don't do it. Don't, make a persona, use a different name, an art name that no one knows it's you, You can do, that is a possibility. You could also just sell on Etsy, sell on your website. You're not going to get a lot of sales that way unless you're also, like, usually most of the artists who are selling on Etsy are sending people there from a social media following they've done. But sometimes it's easier to be on camera if you created a persona for yourself. Think of it as, this isn't me, this is a part I'm playing. And as an artist, and that's your job, you could do that. You could be something, I think the persona is not a bad idea. Heck, you could be all crazy and get like, what is the group, the hacker group or whatever? They have the mask that's like the V for Vendetta guy. You could do a mask. You could do those social shares, but you're always wearing a mask. That could be your brand. You could do so much, but I think almost developing a persona where you can hide behind a mask. You can hide behind, no one knows it's really you. No one sees you. You don't even have to talk to people if you don't want to. Just post it and see what happens. But it almost would be, I wonder if that would just be beneficial in general. So I don't know if any of you guys are aware of the band, Vessel is the guy's name. Matt listens to them constantly. Oh, why can't I remember it? Because Matt may leave me to marry that guy if he ever found out who it was. But, oh my gosh. Hold on. What is it called? No, not that. The guy's username is, no. Let me text Matt. He may not see it. I'm going to feel dumb when he tells me. Anyway, I'll have you look it up. Amazing, amazing band. But they have developed, there's a rumor, they say that all of the members of the band have been in other bands before that are known. I believe they're over in the UK. I want to say it starts with an I. Why can't I think of what it is? Come on, Matt. I hope he notices it, my question. But this band, they're completely masked. We don't even know what race these people are. They paint their skin, they paint everything. We know nothing about them. He wears a mask, he wears a hood. I know he's tall and skinny, like really skinny. He plays piano, super amazing. And is anybody posting that they knew who it was? No one's answering me yet. But anyway, somebody's going to know who it is. There is intrigue. Now, one, the band is amazing. Absolutely amazing. No one knows who he is. They've been together for years and they are super popular, like crazy. No, it's not Slipknot, although some people suggested it might be. He is driving me crazy. Why is Matt not paying attention to me right now? What are you doing? He's probably playing a video game. Trying to think where I could look it up. Maybe Pandora. Do I have Pandora on this phone? I do. I think we've used that playlist in this house before. Let me see if I can pull it up because it's just the point at this point. No, my collection. Recent. Sleep Token. Okay, there was no I in there at all. Anyway, Sleep Token. Look them up. Amazing. But the point of that, let's get on to the point now. The point of that is they've built mystery around it. Like no one knows who he is. If he's out in public, no one's going to recognize him. There's no weirdness. And so I have to wonder if you are struggling with that social anxiety, if you could hide behind a mask, but be in the video, be in the photo, or video reels, whatever you want to do. And, oh, there, Matt. Yeah. Now he answers. But giving yourself something to hide behind could be a really good brand to build on and still be able to sell. I don't know if that's going to work for you. Everybody's going to be different, but that would be kind of cool because it is working really well for Sleep Token. But again, he's super amazing, like super skilled. So you've got to have the skill up, but get yourself a mask, make a persona. I mean, I almost sometimes joke that I have a persona because I'm nicer to people online than I might be in person. Like I was telling you, I just give people, I've got that great rusty and bitch face. People typically don't mess with me, like at all. It's one of those, oh, she is not even worth the trouble. Like I don't even want to deal with the argument there. But yeah, so see if that might work out for you. That's my idea. Let's see. Okay. I think I am caught up to those. We've still got almost a half an hour. If you guys have more stuff to go through. And yeah, she says, I'm the opposite of that. I'm happy most times. I'm actually happy all the time. I'm really happy, but for whatever reason, my face is naturally like a, I guess people just assume I'm gonna be really rude. I don't know. That's just what I look like. Sneak said, you present with a lot of confidence and lowlifes find that intimidating. No, that may be it. That actually could be the situation for me. How is your painting for your office going? So I didn't paint on all week at all since last week because I was getting caught up like on Patreon postcards. Oh, I need to order stamps. Crap, I meant to do that today. I ran out of stamps for the postcards, but I was getting caught up on Patreon postcards, getting caught up on I had to edit the video, but it's still in the same place it was last week with Glitch and Tuna being done. So now, and I did spend, what night did I do that? Friday night? Saturday night? I did download. I still haven't decided if I'm going with a cuttlefish, with eagle rays, with sea turtle. Like I've got so many options that I just can't. Blue spotted ray I was considering. Tons of options that I've got to figure out what I'm going with on that one. But I've got everything ready to go. I just need to crop and Photoshop things in to see what I like. So yeah, I got so much painting done, like so much painting done last week. In 2 days, I got enough done that I have Patreon content now, videos for that, for 3 weeks. I had the sky was this last week. The water and the sand will be next week's. And then I've also got the tuna and Glitch. But I also want to fit in, I want to do a Chickadee and graphite for Patreon. I haven't done a graphite lesson in a really long time. I'd like to do a cute little fluffy bird. So I'm thinking Chickadee, some kind of bird and graphite. That will be fit in between because I don't want too many weeks in a row of acrylics because sometimes that's not what people are signed up for Patreon for. They wanted their medium. So I want to do a graphite soon. Let's see. Jude said, I'm sorry if I missed this before, but I was hoping you would be doing more oil pastel pieces. I absolutely am. I was just thinking about that today. That's another thing I'd like to fit in between on those. I am like itching to do oil pastels so bad, like you have no idea. So absolutely. That is definitely coming. Let's see. Nope, Gail, you do not, don't ruin it for people. No one's confirmed anything on who it is. We don't want to know. We like the mystery. Fans like the mystery of not knowing, so I'm not even looking that up. Let's see. Eric said he used to be on the Sharpened Artist podcast. What happened to that? He got rid of me. He told me back in the end of 2019. He was gone for a family thing for like a month. He came back. We recorded the podcast, and he told me at that point that he wanted to take it a different direction and occasionally have me come on as a guest. And I was really stumped. It was weird. It was like, I'm sorry, okay. And I was moving. I was getting ready to move at the time. So he's like, we'll let you move, and then we'll talk about having you on as a guest or occasionally. And it just, honestly, it pissed me off, and I'm like, I'm either in or I'm out. I'm not going to do this here and there thing. And the thing that was weird is he said he was changing the direction. He wanted to take it another direction, but he never talked. I don't know what that direction was. I don't listen to it. He's not a friend or anything anymore, obviously. When he, like months later, he contacted me asking if I wanted to be on an episode or whatever again. And I was like, no, I'm actually offended that you would ask, that you got rid of me, because he instantly replaced me with somebody else, instantly had me replaced, which it was just very bizarre. I have no idea why. There were no complaints. Like, I don't know what happened, and he never told me. All I heard was he texted me saying, well, there's a lot I could say about that, but I won't. Okay, it was weird. It was bizarre. Basically, he fired me, replaced me. I have no idea why. I was just told he wanted to take it another direction, so it's his baby, so he can do what he wants with it. It actually works out just fine for me, because, yeah. It's all, yeah, I won't go into I wouldn't like his sponsors. I don't know. It makes me wonder because one of his sponsors is a company that I hate. The sanded paper UArt, and he like shills for them. That sounds bad, but I mean he's sponsored by that. Let me reword that in a less snarky way. He is sponsored by a company that I would never put my name behind, knowing what I know about their work not being archival on the back, and that I've seen it firsthand when I tested affect the front of the paper as well. And so I would not be able to be like, yeah, we sponsor or I support this company. Like I wouldn't put my name behind it. And so I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but that started later as far as I know. I don't know. I don't really keep up with what he does now. But yeah, I thought that somebody told me he was now sponsoring, or they were sponsoring. I was like, huh, interesting. That, I mean, I guess it's a good thing that he got rid of me because that I wouldn't have been a part of that. But there we go. I hope the best for him. I'm not like mad, like, oh, I want him to fail. No, it's his baby. He can, I hope it goes well for him. I just don't want to be in it. Yeah, I've always got plans for watercolor. I do watercolor a lot. Let's see. Sheila said, I set out a tall glass with a little apple cider vinegar at the bottom, an inch or so into the kitchen to catch fruit flies. Try that. I've not even tried anything because normally they come and go. When I've had them show up in the past, one was in a vivarium that I ended up, it balanced itself out. I put more spring, oh, maybe I should put more springtails in the other one. Oh, no, they wouldn't be getting out of that though. That wouldn't make sense. I don't think it's, I don't know. I don't even know where they're all coming from. So yeah. Yeah, Art of Raven D said you were not a guest of that podcast. What a goober. And I don't remember how he worded it. It was like a guest co-host, or I would be on there, whereas normally I was every week. So I don't know. I think the thing that bothered me more about that is I felt very used. I know he used me, like, I mean, because we had talked about that before, because I had the name I had already built up on YouTube and he did not. And so that was a good thing to bring me in for. But it's like once he got his thing going with his podcast, just, okay, I don't need you anymore. It was just very bizarre because we had always talked about, like, talking about if it was ever time to stop the podcast or you wanted to stop or whatever. And it's like, wow, we didn't have that conversation at all. You just came back from a big family thing that had happened and we're like, okay, life-changing events are happening now. You're gone. Like, what? Well, oh, all right, go for it. Anyway. And I've not talked to him since, so good luck to him. I guess it's going well. Let's see, would you use wet on wet technique for painting a zebra with oil paint? Should I wait for the black to dry instead before painting the white lines? It depends on what look I was going for. The areas that I want soft, like something's blending and getting out of focus, I want to do that wet into wet so I can do one brush stroke and just subtly soften out that line. But where I want it harsh, I would then come back on once it was dry and do like individual little fur marks or break that up and make it more sharp. But it's never really going to be, like if it's in focus enough that you would want to do it wet against dry paint so that your line is more sharp, you wouldn't want straight lines or like completely smooth lines. You would see little hints of fur of the white or the black overlapping the other color. So I think that I would do it all wet into wet and then I would come through when it dried and sharpen up where it was more in focus. That's a really good question. Whoops. Lady B said, I can't find the Looks archival sanded paper. Is there any sanded paper you recommend as archival? Nope, it's the only one I know of that is archival front and back. Fisher 400 is better than UArt. It wasn't as acidic, but it's still, I will use them all as basically practice pieces, which sucks because I bought a ton of mounted Fisher 400 and it's a beautiful paper to work on. Maybe if I did something for myself, I would use it, but I sure would not use it on anything I was selling. So unfortunately, no. I don't know. You can join I think Brush and Pencil, she has a group on Facebook. You can join that and ask there and maybe she can help you get a hold of it, depending on where you're located. Any chance of a Palace cat? Just wondering. I don't even know what that is. Are those weird, the ones with kind of weird heads? Maybe. Do you do anything with watercolor pencils? I did recently. We had a live stream of, what was that? The seahorse, I think, was with watercolor pencils. And I've got several videos. I did a lionfish, I have a clownfish, but yeah, I should do some more. Andrew said, when my mom told me you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, I just mixed the two and it worked better than the vinegar or honey. Nice. That's funny. Let's see. Let's see, which pan pastel colors would you recommend for a beginner? There are several color combination sets that I saw. I have like a base, I don't know what mine is called. Mine's a set of 20. I have no idea what it's called. I don't know. It's got phthalo blue, phthalo green, ultramarine blue. I'm trying to think of some of the colors so you could look at the sets and see if that's in there. I think there's a red oxide or oxide red or something like that. A regular red. Trying to think what other colors are in there. I love the set I have though. It's a bigger set because it is 20, but it has like such a good, like I've been very happy with the colors that I have. Oh, I guess Nick found it. I didn't even know I had the link. Let's see. While using the brush and pencil titanium white, could I go over it with colored pencil again? Yes. Once it's dry completely. I think I'm caught up. We've still got like 12 more minutes. Oh, here we go. Mona Lisa said, how about a chameleon or two on a branch as a live stream or Patreon tutorial? Possibly for Patreon, definitely not a live stream. That is very, especially not two. For like, that's the challenge with the live streams. I need to be able to get the artwork done in about an hour. So that definitely limits the subjects, like how much detail I can do. But for Patreon, yeah, actually, let me write that down. What medium do you want a chameleon in? I think colored pencil would be colored pencil or watercolor pencil or watercolor and watercolor pencil or watercolor and colored pencil. Those would all be really good ones. Oh, another vote for chameleon. Okay. I guess I've got a chameleon coming up in the future. Lavina said, can't afford that one right now. I saw some smaller kits. Anything that has like your, just like an ultramarine blue, a red, a yellow, white and black. You can mix a lot from those if you're good at mixing. Those might watercolor. Okay, I've got that on my to-do list too, along with a pair of cockatiels and oil over acrylic. Let's see, how about stippling for a live stream? That isn't something I've ever done, believe it or not. Like, it's not a style I respect for it. I don't think I could do that in an hour. That is a lot of work. But yeah, I don't think for the live stream, it definitely needs to be something that I'm more comfortable with and that I can do quickly. And stippling, I do not think would be one of those things for me. That is not in my skill set. I mean, I'm sure I could learn to do it. I just never have. So learning on a live stream is probably not going to be my best choice. But like, I would not be impressing anybody, that's for sure. I think that would be a hot mess. Let's see. Oops, what am I pulling up? Got a few more minutes to bid on the Chickadee. Pull him over here so you can see him a bit better. I wish the color was accurate. That is like the purpley magenta, like it gives, part of it I think is just the way the light refracts through it because of the way that it's layered. It looks so cool in person. So him, and I've got to put the varnish on him tomorrow. What paper do I use for my oil pastel pieces? So I'd been out of the oil pastel game for years. When I just got them again, I got the one by Sennelier. Those, they have an oil pastel pad of paper, and it was wonderful to work on. So that's what I've been using. I'm not saying other things wouldn't work well as in addition to that. That's just the one that I've got. Dolphin Soul said, could you do an animal up close eye on a live stream like tiger, horse, or whale maybe? Yeah, actually. Up close eye. I'm going to put tiger because that's probably what I'll end up doing, and then we'll do a little bit of the fur around the eye in addition to, yep, I can do that. A whale eye, good luck getting a photo of that. That is definitely like, that would be a challenge to find a good photo of. Let's see, Gail said, I just checked and Blick carries brush and pencil, looks archival, professional sanded art papers now. Yay, yep. Name of the Australian local chain of art stores. I don't know. Running out of battery. Gotta go. Bye, Lily. Thanks for watching tonight. B said, I'm also curious why Fabriano Heart Press is so popular for colored pencil. What makes it any different from Arches? It's way too expensive. It used to be better. Or I don't even want to say that it used to be better. I used to love Fabriano, and they changed several years ago. They started printing money on their thing. I don't know. Whatever they changed, it also changed the paper. They said that it didn't, but any artist, whether it be watercolor or colored pencil, we can tell it's not the same. I don't buy it anymore. I buy Arches. I like Arches better. The Fabriano now, it's almost too like slippery. Like it doesn't take as many layers. It doesn't need as many layers. So you do get good color saturation, and I can certainly understand why artists like it. But I didn't like the way I had to alter the way I worked from how the old paper was. The Arches is closer to the way Fabriano used to be. So Arches is what I prefer. I mean, I prefer either over like Bristol Vellum is just too smooth. I don't want that smooth, but it was like the newer Fabriano, it is too smooth. I'd get like 3 layers and then it was just too slippery. Nothing else wanted to really build up. The 3 layers were very saturated, so that was good, but it also wasn't how I enjoy working. So, I mean, I'm sure I could get used to it, but why bother? Not when there's Arches. Let's see. And I think a lot of the videos too about Fabriano, I have to wonder how many of them are current or how many are still influenced by those of us, because I used to push them all the time. I always said how much I loved them. And I wonder how many people see those older videos and they're like, okay, so I'm gonna get this, and they too like it, but don't realize Arches is actually closer to what the old Fabriano was. So maybe that's why people are still using it, or maybe they're just watching old videos. Like I've got plenty of videos where I'm loving on that paper until they changed it. So yeah, and it's not that it's not usable, I just don't like it as much as Arches anymore. Brittany said, I noticed that a lot of the Fabriano watercolor pads and papers aren't made out of 100% cotton like Arches watercolor pads and papers. Oh, I never even paid attention to that. I will take your word for that. Dale said, would love to see a deer or deer family painting. I have deer. I have a couple of deer. I've got a surreal one, and I've also got, there's one who, it's an acrylics who, it's old though, so I should probably just paint a new one. Yeah, I wrote it down. Dolphin Soul said, do you cut your own 5x7 paper from the large pads? I do. If so, do you cut it mat size or just to the border? I cut it maybe 1/2 inch to 1 inch wider than what the 5x7, so it's still smaller than the outer edge of the mat, because the way that I mat things, and you've seen this on the stuff you've gotten from me, I don't have any in here. I have the mat, and then I have a backing board. And so I don't want the art going all the way to the edge, or I can't tape the backing board. I want to be able to use double-sided tape to tape it to the mat, but I don't want that tape on the artwork itself. So that is, I don't cut it all the way to the edge. I mean, you certainly could if you're not taping the backing board, but I do. So yeah, I don't go all the way to so a 5x7 mat, the inside would be 5x7, the outside edge is 8x10. So that would mean I would be using an 8x10 paper, but I'm using somewhere in between an 8x10 and a 5x7 overall size in order to not go to the edge of the mat, if that makes sense. Hope that makes sense. $80 for a 9x12, what? Let's see. Andrew said, do you know if painting archival gesso on non-archival paper is fine? Will the artwork be archival? I don't know why. I wouldn't risk it. I don't know. So this is what happened with the sanded papers. We'll go back to my complaining about UArt. The back of the paper was not archival. The surface that they put on top was archival. The back was soaking through to the front, and when I later tested it with a marker, front wasn't archival anymore. They were affecting each other, whether it be the back of the previous layer, I don't know, but why risk it? I don't think it's worth doing that. I would definitely, I would just get, I mean, because it's not that expensive to get archival paper, and especially if you're gessoing anyway, like you can get pads like this. I probably spent under $10 for this padded paper, and I could gesso it, and it's archival. It's not heavyweight. Probably spent closer to like $8, $7. I don't know how much stuff's going for. Does it have a price? No, there's no price anywhere on this one. But that's archival. Like Strathmore has a lot of very inexpensive stuff that is archival, so I don't really see the benefit of cheaping out there because it's not that much more for most papers, especially if you're going to gesso it anyway. It's not like you need arches. You just need something that's archival. Have you ever archived your art in book form for sale? That would be neat. I've wanted to. I thought like doing a coffee table type book and maybe like quotes next to it or something, like pretty quotes from artists or maybe quotes I've said, or I don't know, something pretty poemy, I don't know, on the opposite side and then the art on one side. But that's a lot of work, and that's one of the problems with doing the videos. So I try to get a new Patreon video every week. I'm also answering questions. You guys know I've been on Discord a lot lately. If you're on Patreon, make sure to get into our Discord chat, because that's been where we mostly talk about stuff, whether it be about art, getting tips from each other, like you guys have asked like for advice from other people, just all kinds of stuff. It's just fun, sharing our plants, our pets, in progress work, finished work, all that's over on Discord. But anyway, moral of the story. I'm constantly either helping somebody who's on Patreon, or I'm making a video, I'm editing a video. I don't take days off. Like yesterday, I felt like I was so on top of things and like had all this time off because I had like an extra 2 hours in the day. I'd gotten all of my work done early. Like that's crazy to me to have just 2 hours to myself. So, which I mostly spent on Discord. But moral of this story is I don't even know where I would find time to do a book. I love the idea, but that is not in my, like, I can't even not do something else. It's not even like, oh, I just won't take a day off. I'll work on my day off to build it. There's no day off. There's no extra time. So my animals take up a lot of time too, like caring for my reef tanks and the birds, and all of that. So, and I love the idea of it. I just don't know how I would make that happen. Wow, Arches Fabriano is 80? What? That seems crazy. I would not buy that. Let's see. Oh, Arches is 30, Fabriano is 80. Holy wow. I see there is no benefit as far as I'm concerned to Fabriano over Arches. So I'm guessing it's just a difference of where you live and the taxes that are being tacked on for where it originated from. But yeah, I would not, no, you don't need Fabriano. Go with Arches, like hands down. Let's see. Lisa Marie Ford said, books take a long time to design. It takes me months to years. That's understandable. You would need to dedicate plenty of time to them in between everything else. Yeah, it's like I did talk to Aliona Nicholson, actually the lady who invented all the Lux Archival, the brush and pencil products, and she wrote the Colored Pencil Bible and the Colored Pencil Portrait. There's another word to that, and I'm missing it. But anyway, those two books are amazing. The work that now they're very elaborate because they're also teaching you. It's not just a photo book, but my gosh. When she told me all the stuff that goes into it, I'm like, yep, I'm out. That is not for me. Like there's no time to do, like so much is involved. Oh, that actually makes a difference too. Snow is saying Fabriano has 20 sheets, Arches comes in 12, but that still doesn't make the difference because it's still per sheet way too much more. So yeah. Okay, we are at 9:59. The auction is almost done. And thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you to the moderators. Check out their channels. Links are in the video description. They've got art channels here on YouTube. And what else? Next week, I'm not sure what we're doing. I've got a lot of requests, and I wrote down your, I wish I hadn't closed that page because now I got to find where all those requests were. Oh, there it is. I'm still working through your last set of requests. There were a lot of ocean things. I'm trying to break it up so there's not all oceans, but thank you again. Congratulations to whoever just won the Chickadee. I'll show you again. I'll be posting a better photo of this because it looks so much better. The color is just, I mean, it has that rusty red color, that orange color, but it's got this gorgeous purples that is just, it's very subtle, but it's not showing. It's so much prettier in person. But anyway, there's the Chickadee. Whoever won just won. And Make sure to follow me over on MeWe or Instagram. I've been on both platforms lately. MeWe's better. What else? Discord, if you're on Patreon, definitely go sign up there. And I will see you guys. I'll be uploading all of these videos tomorrow. Well, not all of these. I'll have the lesson part tomorrow and other stuff the rest of the week. So that, I think, is that it? I think that's it. Bye.
Hey, you. Yes, you. I see all your unused art supplies over there. Oh my god, those brushes aren't even opened yet. Tragic. You keep buying new fancy materials, but you don't use them because you don't want to waste them. Stop making your art supplies sad. Sign up for art lessons for as little as $4 a month. There are over 300 painting and drawing lessons available when you sign up, and new ones every week. Patreon.com/Lachri.